Hello and welcome to the Arsenal BiteSize Podcast. We're here for a Friday lunchtime special reviewing the 2-0 win away at the Tottenham Toilet Bowl for the first time since 2014. We have some
Took you
exciting transfer
14
news.
seconds. No messing around.
Yeah, straight onto the Toilet Bowl. I think I've heard others describe it as somewhere where they have concerts and NFL matches and occasionally play football.
I like that.
How are you, Clayton?
I'm good. On bloody cloud nine this week, and I have to apologise again. I don't know what is going on with me. I'm ill again, so excuse the weird, very irritating voice, but I am on cloud nine this week, man. Sunday was an absolute dream. Like, it was everything we know this team is capable of, and everything we know about the limitations of that lot, and we just absolutely shat on them. Like, it was incredible. And oh my god, just the vibes around this team, not seen anything like it. Like, in my lifetime, I wasn't old enough to remember the good days. Like, I was fortunate, I was there for a few of them, but can't really remember it clearly. I've not seen anything like this in my lifetime. We are incredible, and Sunday was just, oh man, like, do you know how hard it's been waiting to do this on Friday? Like,
Yeah,
each
exactly.
day that's been passing, I just want to bloody blurt about Arsenal.
Yeah, no, man. I've just obviously since then, our neighbours over in North London couldn't quite do the business for us last night against Man City, but
What did
it
you want
was.
last night?
So I thought it would be a very high scoring game, and I was kind of hoping for like a crazy draw, like a 3-3 or a 4-4, something nuts where like they all get fatigued before their respective matches this weekend. And it was good to hear Man United fans moaning about how corrupt the league is and why do they have to play on Wednesday and Arsenal doesn't.
The
And
irony of that Rashford offside, like,
yeah,
literally last
exactly.
weekend. It's like short
Or
memories.
the disallowed goal because of the Odegaard foul against them, our only loss in
Yeah,
the league this
literally.
season. But they're obviously I think the biggest outcome since the North London derby for me is yesterday's match. That wasn't ideal. City still didn't look great, even though they won. I think that was more a case of Spurs bottling it than City looking at their best still.
I've
And Pep
been
in his
saying
interview
this
was
for a
not
while,
happy.
man. This
Yeah, that
City
Pep was
team
not happy, man.
they're not at it. Like, this City team, so many people are judging City based on what they were. Like, obviously they are a very good team. They've got an outrageous attack, but in terms of like a all-rounded team, we're there on merit. Like, we
Yeah,
are genuinely
exactly.
there on merit.
I think like it was Pep. He was complaining about the intensity, the passion from his players,
The
the home
fire in
fans booing them at halftime.
that
And
made
he
me
was like, we
die.
played well. He was like, we've won 4 out of 5 leagues and you're booing us at halftime for playing the better football. Like, we're down because of 2 shit mistakes. Like, how could you? And then he was just asking for more from his players, as you say. I think some of these players, he had made the point after the World Cup that he didn't see the same desire from those who were part of the 4 Premier League wins. And that's why the likes of Rico Lewis have made it into the limelight, because they've not won the Premier and they're proving that they want to be there and they deserve to be there. But the intensity seems to be lacking a bit. I think overall, Mahrez had a great game. He was definitely man of the match for me. But the biggest takeaway, aside from the result yesterday and them being kind of now 5 points behind instead of 8 points, was actually, I think, the Casemiro 5th yellow card.
Oh, mate.
Yeah,
I
that was
celebrated that like
huge.
we just scored a goal.
That was huge.
Like,
Like, when that happened, I was telling myself, oh, okay, they got the 3 points, but at least Casemiro is suspended. I didn't
so,
expect that. At least say free kick at the 96th minute.
honestly, let's obviously. So this is going to be like 90% talking about Spurs and everything, and then
Yeah.
we'll touch on the Man United game and preview that briefly. So should we keep all of that for the back end?
Yeah,
'Cause
let's get to that.
I
Should
don't
we
want
talk
that to
about the
lead into
signings
like
first?
levels. Yeah, I don't want that to lead
Yeah.
into like our levels of confidence just yet. Let's keep that to the
Yeah,
back
yeah,
end.
of
But
course. How about so do we want to talk about the signings first? Maybe just 5 minutes on that before we talk about
I
Spurs?
think so. And our good friend Angus McFell has just messaged me saying we've just signed someone. Like Jakob Kiwior from Spezia. 20 million euros.
Oh
Centre back.
shit! I've just seen Fabrizio Romano 2 minutes ago.
Rah!
Polish centre back Jakub Kiwior from Spezia. Here we go soon.
Live, is that our first live signing on air?
I think it is. Medical tests could take place this week. Deal very advanced. All parties hope to get it signed. So we are going to get a centre back cover for not just have Rob Holding for the rest of the season. That's exciting.
Interesting. All right. I think, well, I don't know about you. I know nothing about this guy, so I'm not going to pretend to know anything. I think that's one that we probably have to do a bit of research on, but that's
I think we
interesting.
research him for the next show when hopefully the deal's gone through. But it does make me wonder if we're signing him because we're not going to get Ndika in the summer, or something's changed in that deal. Because I know he
Maybe.
was an option for us for a free agent when he's out of contract in the summer. But I guess we'll find out over the coming days. In terms of other deals, obviously we've heard the good news that the Trossard deal kind of got basically done in like 24 to 48 hours. It's pretty rapid, right?
Yeah, and I guess first of all, how are you feeling about it? Me personally, I'm very happy. I think he gives us a lot of technical security. I think stylistically, I need to do a bit more homework on him. I don't know what's up with me, but when I've been watching Brighton, I've never really focused in on him. But I think how I kind of look at the attack as a group and kind of what he can give us, freeing up Martinelli and Saka's minutes a little bit, keep them fresh, play in the cup games so they don't have to. And game states, right? If we're leading and need to just kind of have that technical security to kill off games, I think he's fantastic. Similarly, if Newcastle at home, we're struggling to kind of break down low blocks even, I think he's a great option. So I think for me, for the price, and I know people talking about the 4-year contract and stuff, I think that's just done to kind of protect value so that should we need to churn the squad in 2 years' time, we should be able to recoup the fee. But I think Prem proven, he'll be able to come in, hit the ground running, and kind of assist the others in the forward group. I'm very happy with it. And it's 12 p.m. I think he should be around on Sunday.
Yeah, hopefully he's been registered and he can come off the bench against United to either score the winner or score the 5th goal.
How are you feeling about the signing in general?
So interestingly, I am a huge Trossard fan. I think he fits this squad like a glove. I know there's a lot of anger about like we've gone against our youth transfer policy and he's not under 23 and all that.
I don't
But
get
I
that.
don't think that's the be all and end all. Like you need some experienced players. I think for me, like I was very hot on Mudryk, as you know. I was pretty upset to lose that deal. But I actually see this Trossard transfer as safer in the sense
I'm
that
glad
he
we
is
got
Premier League
Trossard
proven that you said.
sorted because I think
Yeah.
you would have been very annoying on this
I
pod.
would have been so upset if we had no one coming in.
Yeah.
No attacker.
I was not ready for your tantrum.
I would have been acting like an entitled Chelsea fan, asking why we've not spent 500 mil this year. I think the main thing for me for Trossard, what I really love about him, right, is when he first arrived in the Prem. Back then, I looked into him and his time in Belgium at Genk, and
Okay.
he was I thought he was a baller. He's very technically gifted. But the thing that really appeals to me about Trossard, and we've seen it at Brighton since, he is so versatile. Like Mudryk was primarily a left winger. Yeah, sure, he could have played across the front three, but he hasn't played there much. He's played 50 games of professional football, has 11 goals in his career. Like, that's what I mean by that was a higher risk goal. Like, no doubt he's a wonder kid. He would have been amazing for a future squad. But in terms of now, for a Premier League challenge, to bring in someone who's adjusted to the league already, I saw his numbers, his goals, assists, and chances created compared to our players, compared to Saka, Martinelli, and Jesus and stuff. And it's pretty much on par. So he's already kind of pulling up similar numbers in terms of returns. He also has 7 goals. He has 2 assists. But the thing about versatility, I just want to hone in on that. This is a guy who can play across the entire front three. He can play centre forward. But more than that, he's technical enough to play as an 8 if needed. And he's played wing back as well for Brighton. This is a guy who can play bloody wing back, man. Like what position? This sounds like Bukayo Saka can play anywhere and wing back too. Like, obviously, perhaps in terms of ceiling, like he doesn't have that much further to go, but he is in his prime. I'd say Arteta coaching can maybe get another 20% out of him, but with like a Mudryk, like you'd say, okay, he's maybe at 10% of his ceiling. With this guy, I think he's already 80%, but that's a good thing because we want someone ready to go. We want someone ready to challenge.
Yeah, I think that's a great summary. And you've clearly done your homework on him. And I think there's 2 points here. One is what you said about like his versatility. Like for me, it is so clear the vision of where we're heading with this squad. And it's what I've been saying about trying to lift the quality, but kind of, it's not about having a squad of 22 where you've got one backup for each player. It's having like 16, 17 players that are of a first team quality level that you can trust to cover multiple zones. And I think on the coaching thing, like I was speaking to a Brighton fan on Twitter, just like I said, stylistically, I've not really paid much attention to Trossard. And one of the things he said, like he echoed what you've just said about his strengths, but one of the things he said was, sometimes he takes a bit too long on the ball. And I was like, with Arteta's individual coaching, I think this guy will absolutely get that extra 20% you just said. Like Arteta's individual coaching, we've seen it with like Saka, Martinelli, Odegaard, Xhaka, and Nketiah. Like I'd say every single player in our team has individually gone up a level. Like no one has...
even before this, right? Like when he was at City, the likes of Sane, Sterling, Stones,
credits him so much for his, like, I know people have their divided opinions on Sterling now, but you can't doubt that he was an end product machine when Arteta was there as the assistant manager. So,
and Zinchenko, right? The news came out recently that it was actually Arteta who, like, at City converted him to an inverted fullback from an attacking midfielder.
You said that last week, and I wasn't aware of that. But
I think it was news. Like no one knew before. Everyone thought it was Pep, right? And it only just come out.
I just think, like, even this guy, like, his end product is very good, and like you see the hat trick at Anfield earlier in the season, and like his finishing's good. He gives us a lot, in my opinion, and I think it's
has some insane techers, man.
Yeah, like, you know how I always talk about the forward area as a group, and like, I usually say 5 for 3, but I think we're heading towards like 6 for 3, to be honest, because we've now got Martinelli, Trossard, Nketiah, Jesus, and Saka. I don't think Smith Rowe is going to be used out wide personally. I think he's going to be primarily used in that.
That's a very good point. I feel like this signing, it gives Arteta an opportunity to maybe play Smith Rowe more centrally, where he could be more dangerous, because I felt that he does score a lot of goals, we know, but when he was playing out wide, he's sometimes like isolated from the match, and he can't use all his strengths and attributes in the right way. I think if he can play in that Xhaka role, that could be quite exciting for a few games, like as a cover there.
Yeah, so I'm not sure I agree on like him not being fully utilized. I think it's on the wing. Like I think he's got his merits. I think for me, it's more the effect that Zinchenko's role has on what we want from a left winger, and I think that's where Smith Rowe's attributes for me in this system, and especially with what Zinchenko brings, is more suited to like in the interiors. But just one more on that kind of forward group. This signing to me makes sense because it's someone that hits the here and now. He can hit the ground running, like Prem proven, and I still think we will go big in the summer for like a level raiser wide forward. And it's not to replace Saka, it's not to replace Martinelli. It's forget the concept of backups and just treat the forward area as a group. And it's people that are going to be challenging each other to get that extra 5-10% of each other, rotate the minutes around. Look at City. They've got bloody Mahrez, Grealish here and there that don't play.
I was going to say their bench yesterday, right? So their bench yesterday was João Cancelo, Kyle Walker, Laporte, Ruben Diaz, Kevin De Bruyne, Calvin Phillips, Bernardo Silva, and Phil Foden.
Yeah,
I don't think I've ever seen a bench like that in my lifetime.
So every time,
we need that depth.
Yeah, every time an Arsenal fan says to you, "Oh, but what about Martinelli's growth or Saka's growth?" Just send them that, because that is where, obviously we can't get to that level, but we can get almost there in terms of options that are versatile.
I think with Champions League as well, people don't realize we can't play the kinds of teams we played in our Europa matches in the group stage. Like all these clubs have to play top level players in the Champions League 3 times a week. They're playing, you know, I'm hoping that getting into the Champions League, our initial target for the season, is a mere formality now. I hope so, at least. And therefore we need to plan for a squad for that. So I do think the fact we were willing to spend that kind of money on Mudryk, and we've only gone and spent 20 mil on Trossard, means that there is money there. And I think we're going to go big in summer. I think you're right. That Declan Rice news that came out, seeing as we're talking about transfers, I didn't realize, but Chelsea tried to bid a verbal bid in the last week to Brighton for Caicedo, and they bid like 45, 50 mil, and Brighton rejected it, and Chelsea were like, we can't afford to pay more. So I'm starting to think if they don't get Champions League football, which is looking more likely, and they've splurged all their money on like 500 mil signings, you've got to hope they surely can't compete for a guy who definitely wants Champions League football.
Yeah, Chelsea's an interesting case study at the minute. Like Sudge and James at Planet FPL did a really good Patreon pod on their financial fair play case study. And I won't regurgitate it. Like if people want to sign up and listen to that, it's really good. But they've done things very smartly, like to kind of get around insinuates they've done something wrong. Like that they're doing okay on an FFP front. It's
And they've
just
got new owners, right? So I think there's like a 3-year grace period as well. So like they're not even going to be like, none of these books are going to be open till 2025,
yeah. I think
2026. So like they've got time.
Yeah, the thing for me is just like the lack of strategy. It's just like it is literally like me when I played career mode when I was like 17 years old. Honestly,
It's
it's
FIFA,
bonkers.
right? Like Todd Bowley was on Twitter Spaces with Chelsea accounts asking the fans who he should buy next. Like it's actually wild.
Really?
Yeah, he was literally from his own main account, like on Spaces, chatting to fans, saying, "So who else should we buy? Is there any players I don't know about?" Like the guy is fucking nuts, man. He's brought a baseball contract to football, and I wonder if
Yeah.
that will be something we see more in football going forward. These 7-8 year deals, which are more common in American sports, it seems. But no, honestly, just one last thing I want to on Trossard. I think
Yeah.
there's more to him than just versatility and goal scoring and creativity. This season, I believe he's the player who's won possession the most in the final third of the opponent.
Wow.
So he does also have other capabilities that really suit our system of high press, overloading the opponent so they can't get out their third. Like he kind of fits like a glove. I'm actually in shock. And I think the best part for me is his attitude. As soon as he found out Arsenal were interested, he rejected Chelsea, Spurs, and European clubs. He
So
did
you
not want
could
to go anywhere else but Arsenal. And
so you
I
could flip it
respect
the
that.
other way on the attitude, and I'm just like, why did he fall out? But yeah, no, I get what you're saying,
Yeah,
and
so
that's
apparently he left training or something after being told he wasn't going to be in the squad for one of the matches and he just left and
yeah,
deservedly was
that's
pissed.
I don't like. If I'm being honest, I don't really like hearing that. But he's our player now, so it's a kind of blank canvas, fresh start. No point judging him on
I think
previous
we have
things.
a
Let's just see what
family
he does for the
environment
Arsenal.
and hopefully he comes in and when you're in that family atmosphere, you fight for each other, you die together, you eat together, right? So I'm hoping there's something there. Cool.
That
So I think
stat,
that's kind of
yeah.
yeah,
Sorry,
so
just
go on.
no. The final point. That stat that you just said about him like regaining the ball. That's amazing. I wasn't aware of that. Like that, like you say, stylistically, that fits everything we do. Like from defending from the front, like that. Yeah, that's
Like
made my
I
day.
can't think of another winger right now that was available to buy at that kind of price that's Premier League proven in their prime age, literally turned 28 2 days ago or something, and can play all these positions and
Yeah,
raises our depth to this level. So I'm honestly so excited to see him. I've had
yeah.
big
So
love for him for years. I just think he's an exciting player. But just one final really fun fact,
yeah.
and we will go to the review of the Spurs game. Did you know that AirPod Albert, our man on the sideline with Arteta, was Trossard's coach?
I didn't,
He,
but I saw you posted it in a
yeah,
chat
yeah.
earlier. That blew my mind
He
actually.
man he managed him between 2016 2017 at Genk. He was the manager of the club before he became Arteta's assistant, and he was the manager of Trossard back then. So apparently, Arsenal, Arteta, and co have been aware of Trossard for a long time.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
obviously, right? Like one of our coaching staff was his manager. Like,
And that, to be honest, hearing that puts me a bit more at ease on in terms of the character stuff as well and the attitude,
mhm.
because like he would be well aware of him, and obviously there was a specific uh there was a specific example of what happened at Brighton which caused the fallout, but Airport AirPod Albert will know a lot more about his wider character. But yeah, we're hitting 19 minutes and we've not really massacred Spurs yet. So should we move
Yeah,
on?
let's go to the Tottenham, the good old Tottenham. So for the podcast listeners, I think at this point our starting lineup just picks itself, unless someone's injured or suspended. Yeah, so it's obviously Ramsdale in goal, White, Saliba, Gabriel, Zinchenko at the back, Odegaard, Partey, Xhaka in the middle, with Saka, Nketiah, Martinelli up top. I'll quickly, should I just give out Spurs? Oh no, there was no Spurs lineup. Okay, yeah, they don't deserve to be shown. But I was going to add,
Uh,
obviously, I thought it was quite interesting that Perisic, one of their top players, was dropped for Sessegnon to, I guess, try and stop Saka, and he got
when
butchered.
when I saw his name in the lineup pre-match, I laughed. I genuinely laughed. I was with my friends. I was like, so just kind of wider feelings about the game before we go into the details like we usually do. You know how I say on Derby Day, I feel sick to my stomach. I get quite anxious. I can't really eat. My mouth goes dry. I didn't have any of that on Sunday. Like, it's the first time I felt calm. Like, I texted a few of my friends saying, I feel calm. We're going to do this. And my nerves only really kicked in as the whistle blew for the game. And I think that's so telling of where we are as a football club and how good we know this team is. Like, Tottenham away, every Arsenal fan knows what it means. We all know when the last time we won there was. We all know about the last 6 years, how like they finished above us. We all know about last season, how that finished. And it means so much. But with all of that context, to go in and just feel calm like it's any other game and I know our team's going to beat them, like, that is a surreal feeling to have about this team, which I've not had in a long, long time. And we are phenomenal. Like, we are. So, biggest compliment to us. I was on a pod with James from Planet FPL. He said if we were in the Champions League this year, he's worried that we would win it. That's not coming from me. That's a Spurs fan. And he knows his
Spurs
football.
fan. And that's someone who knows his football. Yeah.
He knows his football. So, enough said. That's where we're
I think
at.
that's huge. And then the other thing, wasn't it? I guess Bentancur, maybe he wasn't quite fit, but it was mad to see them partner the midfield with Sarr. Like, he's like pretty much never started for them in the Prem yet. And as soon as I saw that, I felt so comfortable, as you say, before kickoff, like more comfortable than I have any right being before a away match at Tottenham. And I just think Zinchenko, he just went up another level for me. And I want to just touch on him first, because I feel like if we don't talk about him,
while
we'll
we're
talk
on
about
this
other
slide,
players.
should we? Yeah, let's
talk about players.
Yeah.
Because I feel like there were so many players who had standout performances. I thought Nketiah played incredibly. The only thing missing was a goal. And, you know, like, he was honestly incredible. Saka was incredible. Odegaard was incredible. The party was incredible. So it's like, there's so many incredible players. I just feel like Zinchenko will be forgotten unless we talk about him first. And the reason I want to talk about him first is I think what he did in kind of making that 3v2 in midfield actually a 4v2, basically, because he was there with Odegaard, Xhaka, and Partey offering outlets. Obviously, I couldn't understand what he was doing. Like, you know, like, he is not a bloody left back. Like, he just plays where he wants, when he wants. Yeah. I feel like he is the guy who orchestrates our progression up the first 2/3 of the pitch, and then Odegaard takes over for the final third. But for him to control that amount of space, it is honestly insane. Like, there was a part of the game where he was in the right attacking midfield slot. And this wasn't like from a corner or a free kick. He got there in open play, and I just don't understand. Like, how did we get this gem? And I hope his regular injury issues at City and Arsenal are put behind him, because he is so important to this system. Week on week, I realize more and more how important he is stylistically to what we do. And he's starting to feel like almost like another single point of failure, like Partey is. That's how good I think he is.
It's so true. Like, he's just a cheat code, isn't he? And yeah, I think what he does is so clever, and you can give him the ball anywhere. Like, him and Partey, I feel like you can give them and Odegaard, to be honest, absolutely anywhere on the pitch. They'll retain it, they'll recycle it, and they'll create an opportunity to then bang, start an attack. And he's just ridiculous. Like, I think one thing we said about was playing the game, not the occasion. You would think this was just a stroll in the park for them on Sunday. Like, I can't get my head around how well coached this team is. Like, the automatic movements, the presses, the triggers, and like the autopilot movements of when one player moves, that triggers another player to go into a certain area, and then the ball moves into that space. It's so clever. And like I've said before, the footballing IQ of this team is ridiculous. And to be honest, like, I know I said let's call out key players, but I don't think we can, because everyone was just outrageous. And like, even like the defenders, like Gabriel, he's just been on fire recently. Saliba has had a couple rusty games, but they pocketed Kane. Like, I know he had one decent header, but other than that, he couldn't really get anything. And I actually thought Spurs started relatively well, like, for them. I thought first 5 minutes, I thought they started well. And I was saying to my mates, we really need to just keep the ball here. But then once we did, oh my God, we did not look back. Like, this whole team is unbelievable. And
I'm going to be bold and say that first half, for me, I felt like that was the best half of football from any team in the Prem this season. Obviously, on the second half, Spurs came back into it a bit. Maybe we were a bit nervous about knowing we could go 8 points ahead and didn't want to concede. And I think some of the players spoke about afterwards that, you know, Arteta has said that we've not kept many clean sheets, and that was on our mind. I think it was Ramsdale in the interview. So to keep a clean sheet as well. On top of all that, I think Ramsdale had a unbelievable, probably his best performance in an Arsenal shirt, and not
Yeah,
just
he
goal saving, like
stepped up.
distribution as well. Yeah, he was honestly
Yeah,
so, and like obviously like, you know, he's been getting abused all game by fans behind him, the fans in the goal, and it's mad to think that like he can't like smile at a win and it's
I
his
know.
fault to incite that shit that happened to him. But I'm
Yeah, like
glad the
if you
guy's
don't,
been arrested and stuff.
yeah, don't give it if you can't take it. Like I don't get that. And Ramsdale does that in good faith a lot. Like the Leicester fans were giving him stick, he gave it back. Like I think it was Leeds
Chelsea
that were
fans
doing
were
it.
giving him stick as well. He said that he waved at them, and one of the stewards was like, "Why did you do that?" And he's like, "Have you heard what they've been saying to me for the last 45 minutes? And the names they've been calling me. I've just fucking waved at them. Like these guys need to like grow, like 35-year-old grown men trying to kick a Premier League player. Like what the fuck is wrong with these people?
I
Honestly,
know. But yeah, he was
it's
fantastic.
so sad to see that.
Like I thought the level of control we had in the game was scary. Like we absolutely schooled them and put them in their
And we
place.
knew
But
there was a spotlight on our behavior and touchline antics. And
yeah,
I
but
think it was insane. Like that moment where Arteta kind of turns around and sees Xhaka's gone back
that
and he sprinted. That is a highlight for me of the season. The way he had to control his squad. I sometimes think, is it that Arteta is so young that the players can relate better to him? Because when you think about it, he's only 2 years older than Thiago Silva, who's still playing. So he is incredibly young. Like he kind of, I think he understands their culture and he can speak to them like
yeah,
as a peer
100%.
sometimes, right?
Yeah, 100%. But that moment has just given me like content. If I'm ever feeling down, just endless laughs. Like that is incredible. But what I was just saying on that point about the control was like we absolutely scored them, absolutely had the control. But my God, like they did have a couple decent chances, and I don't want to kind of. I'm not trying to be negative. I just don't want to overlook that. Like Ramsdale gave us the ability to then go on and control and dominate that game. If Son's first chance goes in, or the
It's a
others
whole
do, like
different ball game. Yeah.
yeah. So like Ramsdale, he has stepped up to the plate massively on Sunday, and I hope he maintains that consistency now. Because fair play to him. And like Partey, like I want your opinion on Partey. I thought he started the game horrendously. I thought he was shocking. I thought he was misplacing passes quite a lot, and then something clicked. I feel like half an hour in,
Yeah, I
and
think, did you
obviously,
notice there was, I think, a moment where he gave away the possession, which led to the chance that almost went in, as you say. And I think Xhaka came up to him and kind of like gave him a slap on the back and that camaraderie to kind of be like, come on, we
yeah,
got this, like put it behind you. I think that was the kind of the turning point when his teammates banded with him and that leadership from Xhaka to just help him get his head up and like not let the misplaced passes or losing a possession get to him, because there was
yeah,
definitely a few shaky moments, I think, at the beginning, as you say.
yeah. I was really concerned at one point because I felt like he'd misplaced 3 or 4 passes. He was trying to force the kind of breaking through the lines when it wasn't really on, and I felt like obviously the booing in the crowd, like we can't really speak about what's going on there, but we all kind of know. But I felt like that was kind of getting to him. And then, like you said, that leadership from Xhaka, that's fantastic to see. And there was a clip doing the rounds pre-match. Like his 180 in this team is just so good to see, Xhaka. Like his
I think
leadership
if we win a
ability.
league, he will go down as an Arsenal legend at this point. It's actually crazy, the turnaround.
Yeah, yeah, it'll be interesting to
Well, you,
see
well, you
what.
have to be, right. If you're one of the leaders of the dressing room that takes a team from eighth, fifth to winning a Prem with the youngest squad, like
Yeah, and the way he's
spending a
leading by
fraction of the
example.
rest.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
so I
I
think
thought
that's
his
honestly is crazy.
his role on Sunday was clever. Like he dropped slightly deeper. Like the midfield, like so where I'm quite proud of us, like this sounds really weird and a bit of a pat on the back. Everything we predicted just came to fruition, and it's like we're a team that is it easy to predict how we'll play, but you can't fucking stop it.
You
And
can't stop
Spurs
it.
are
Like
a
the
team,
opposition knows what we're gonna do. Yeah.
yeah, and Spurs are a team where we know they are toilet, and we just took full advantage. But like the overloads everywhere, and like the 2 goals, is it like I think I actually said one of the areas we'd get joy is if we overloaded the flanks, isolated the little half spaces, and you think of that goal that Odegaard scored. It was Partey being brilliant press resistant, getting it out to Saka. There was an overload. Their midfield just got dragged slightly out. Odegaard was chilling in the pocket, play it into him, and then bang, what a finish! But this team is just so good, and even I'm just looking at the lineup, and there's like I want to talk about each
Well, all of
individual. And
them,
I know
yeah.
we can't do that, but like Nketiah, I think if he scored one of the 2 goals, which in my opinion he should have scored one,
Yeah,
we are
yeah,
talking about a complete centre forward performance because he did it all. And like one of my favourite moments, this is very your dad, this is very old fashioned, when he absolutely twatted. I forgot who it was, but there was like a couple duels
it was
going on.
right at the beginning of the game. I think it was Sessignon. I think he just booted him
He
to
just
let him
clapped
know.
into. I loved that. I absolutely loved that. But his all-round game, being a bit less your dad, a bit more like actual football brain, his all-round game, his hold-up play, his ability to run the channels, be a nuisance, his duels, his movement, very, very good, man. And it's everything that, again, we've been saying it. He is a better all-round player than people give him credit for. I think people just judge the name Eddie
Yeah.
Nketiah as this little
Like he's not
Haaland
played
boy
much in the
that
Premier
kept.
League, and yeah, like he's just like they see him as some player who is quite young and hasn't proven himself, and he's only had a couple purple patches. But it's like this is one of 2 spells he's had in the first team, and both times he's done pretty great. He's much better now than the purple patch at the end of last season. Last season it was more goal scoring, I would say, and he obviously replaced Lacazette, and that was a big upgrade at the time. But this season he's had to come in and replace Jesus, who like changed our team. So it was a much more demanding ask of him. And it wasn't just goal scoring we needed from him this time. And he is honestly, week by week, he seems to be growing into that role. Now, he doesn't quite offer maybe the same like ability to dribble past players that Jesus does. But from a hold up point of view, I feel like he is giving us options. If anything, have you noticed he's perhaps more capable of receiving the ball long than Jesus is? So he gives
Yeah,
another outlet for like Ramsdale to boot the ball up to him and hold on. So there are some elements of his game that could be improved in terms of in relation to Jesus. But I think you were the one who said this, and now I look back on it, you were quite right. It's not about him doing everything Jesus did. It's about the squad adjusting to play to his strengths now. Like
yeah.
we can't just assume he's like going to fit in and like the whole kind of square pegs round holes. Like he's a square peg potentially, and Jesus was the round hole. You can't just ask him to do the exact same thing. Like yes, you hope he brings some of those things, but we know that if he's in the 6-yard box, he will score. So it's like you want to build the opportunities for him to get
Well,
those
not on
chances.
Sunday, but
Yeah, not on Sunday, unfortunately. Yeah, no, I think Lloris, that was probably like a bad game for him at the office. Wasn't a bad day at the
he's
office for him.
fucking shit, man. Like, and they've been like, okay, fair enough. Like, he's been good for a while, but he's fallen
So
off. Like,
this
a
year
lot.
he's fallen. So this year his save percentage is like one of the lowest of any goalkeeper in the league, and his own kind of numbers compared to his last 10 seasons, this is his worst by far. So I don't know if it's just a blip, if he'll improve at some point this season, but it is his worst season in the Prem so far. And he also looked a bit shocking against City yesterday. So it's kind of continued, like that calamity's going on week by week.
Yeah, this is very random. I just wanted to check. I'm muted to blow my nose. I definitely muted
Oh, yeah, no,
myself,
we
right?
can't hear
Yeah, okay,
anything.
good.
Yeah, don't worry.
Cool.
Yeah, don't worry. The podcast
Yeah.
listener is going to be like on max volume, and suddenly you can burst an
Yeah, it's
eardrum
like an
somewhere.
elephant noise. Yeah.
So I think, yeah, no, I think that Eddie, like, he deserves all the plaudits. I think Saka, something I feel about him is if you look at a lot of the games where the game state is kind of like a draw and we're not winning yet, I feel he's the one who takes the game by the scruff of the neck and has to get us into the game to like get to a leading position. And then once we're leading, we're a bit less reliant on him, and we seem to grow in confidence in matches. And we then start to shift the ball between either flank, and opportunities come from every side of the pitch, basically, because we're not one dimensional like we were last year on the right flank anymore. But I just think that that's a key thing that I've noticed is that Saka is very much, he is our talisman still. Like, even though there's so many great players, great performances that we've listed, I just feel without him, we can't necessarily unlock teams as quickly as we do. And I think he's a key part of our quick starts to matches. I think he's just
Yeah.
really pivotal to that.
He's just someone like, again, like Odegaard, Partey, Zinchenko. You give him the ball anywhere. Like, he is someone, you know what he's gonna do, and you can't stop it. Like, he'll do the Lacazette twerk, but with more purpose into you, and he'll just pivot. And like, I don't know if you saw, Sankey actually sent us a link in one of the groups about this kind of automatic movement between White, Odegaard, and Saka, and we've been seeing it for a while. So like, for some reason, it's gone viral this weekend. I think because it was really obvious on Sunday how often we were doing it, but we've seen it in games where it's how we scored Xhaka's goal in the first game at the Emirates. Partey passed it into space for Martinelli, who then ran onto it, and then Xhaka took it off and scored. But we're doing this quite a lot on the right-hand side, where White will pass it into space, Saka will take it, Odegaard's there, he creates an overload, and then suddenly there's acres of space for Ben White to bomb on. And that is so clever because that opens up space in two channels. On the outside for the fullback, and then in the half space where Saka or Odegaard are kind of running in the interior, heading towards those little half spaces. And again, I don't know why this is only doing the rounds now, because we have been doing it, but Sankey sent that in our group chat that we're in, and it was good to see that. But it's just, that is credit to Saka's intelligence, that he is the pivot in that whole little automatic trigger movement happening. And I don't know how you defend against it. Like, I'm glad we're Arsenal fans, because if we were a fan of the opposition doing a preview pod about playing Arsenal, I'll be like, oh, fuck it, we're done.
Yeah, I think after the Newcastle game, Dan Burn came out in an interview and he just spoke about how Saka's like unplayable. He was like, he's just too good. Like, so for him to get that respect as well from a team that have been perhaps even more defensively sound than us this season.
Yeah,
I think the only team that have been more defensively sound than us, and they're still complimenting our attackers in a goalless draw because they know how much hard work it is to stop that. I think just on Martinelli,
strong, right? Sorry, go on.
So I was just gonna say on Martinelli because like he just cracks me up because I saw him trying to like do a little handshake or spud with his fist to Richarlison, who was like on the sideline behind all the Spurs fans, like as if Richarlison was gonna spud him back. And then I saw, I think there was another moment where I think Tomiyasu was on the sideline and he was like pushing Richarlison out the way because he was trying to stop our quick throw. And then Richarlison like slaps him back. And then it's just like watching him cry throughout those incidents. It really made my day. But Martinelli remembered. Yes, I was going to say Martinelli just suddenly remembered his Brazilianness, right? I don't think I've ever seen him do that skill before. He just received the ball on his back. Like,
you see Romero's reaction.
He was fuming about that show, but he took him straight out.
He is so overrated. Like
he got a yellow straight after that, right? Like he basically got pissed and then fouled him and got yellow.
How I judge defenders quite binary. I look at, are they reactionary or are they proactive? I feel like Romero reacts to everything he sees, and people love him because he's hard in the tackle, this, that, but he only ever reacts to what he sees. He's not proactive in kind of anticipating the ball's going to go here, I'm going to be there. But like, I think he's so overrated personally, and I just there's people like that who I think are quite. Okay, I don't think he's average. I think he's good, but I think he's very overrated. But people like him and Richarlison, who like, they're not quite that top tier, but their egos are that they are. And the way they're
like Nicholas
football
Bentner,
club
right?
fans talk about them, you think they're going to be Ballon d'Or winners. And when they get humbled like that, oh my God. You can see I'm excited.
It gave me good crack when Richarlison said that he thought it was wrong of Ramsdale to kiss the shirt and the badge after winning away from home in the North London derby for the first time in 8 years. And then I just see these headlines of Richarlison throwing a flare into the fucking Everton fans at the stadium last season and getting fined by the FA.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm like, let me get this straight. You can't kiss your badge, but you can throw a flare at people in the fucking stadium.
Mike's made a good point in the chat. The scarf on that spider cam, that was poetic. That was like, we are here, bitches, in your stadium. Like, we have just shat on you. Like, the Arsenal have taken over. Like that for me was, if you could summarize the whole feeling around that game and the experience and the event, everything it was, that one photo for me does it.
I think just a quick Arsenal shout takeover. Out as well.
Go on, shout out some of the chat.
Tuning in, Mike. Good to see you, mate. We've got Christopher Tellez as well. Good to see you. Lovely to see Delia pop in for a bit as well. And then I think just here, Mike Halpin was in reference to what I said about Xhaka becoming a legend if we win the Prem. He's going to start crowdfunding the Xhaka statue if we win.
I'll donate. I will donate.
I'll donate. 100%, Mike. I'll donate. I guess, so do you want to talk about like man of the match, or is there any other specific players you want to call out? We talked a bit about Gabriel, Zinchenko, Saliba, Ramsdale. We've touched on Partey, Saka, and Nketiah Martinelli. We said we didn't want to talk about every player, but we've pretty much listed them all.
We did it in a sly way. It was like, oh, we don't want to talk about everyone, but we proceeded to talk about everyone.
I love it.
No,
Yeah, so let's
I
look at
think
the
that's all good.
numbers then, I think. Yeah, let's look at
Just
the
no, go
numbers.
on. Your man of the match, might as well.
Oh, yeah, let's do man of the match before we look at the stats of the match. So I think
For me,
it just has to be Ramsdale for me, just
yeah,
because it's just the way he reacted to what happened and how he kept a smile on his face. He kept his cool. He didn't let anyone get to him. And we talked about how this season there's been some occasions where he's made some bad decisions or kind of run out when he maybe didn't need to and gotten into risky situations. We talked about his goal stopping. What we haven't talked about, and I think it is the reason it firmly stamps him as man of the match for me, is he was so good at kind of reading the crosses and coming in and
yeah.
clearing them. So the amount of times I saw him run out and punch the ball out the box, like these were situations that could have led to, kind of comedy show defending in our box if the ball was just bouncing around off people. But he took the matter into his own hands and with confidence cleared all those crosses. So
It was
that
it
was
was
kind of
the
the final bit for
assurance,
me.
right? Yeah, like
Yeah, the assurance, yeah.
yeah, he was fantastic. And my biggest thing is, I hope this wasn't just like a. Obviously, he's been good, but he has had, as you'd expect with a young goalkeeper, he's had inconsistent moments. I hope for him, this is the moment that kind of kicks him on to demonstrate that level of consistency, because his ceiling is a bonkers, like a really, really scary ceiling he's got. And yeah, delighted for him. And I love, like, he gets it. There's something about these young British lads, I think, playing for the Arsenal, like they get it. And I think giving the shit to the fans, I love it. Like, especially like as a match going fan, I live for all of that shithousery. And as a lot of
Mm.
people see on Twitter, I'm a bit of a wanker myself, right? So I'm all for it.
I guess if you weren't going to go for the same man of the match, Ramsdale, who would sneak in as like a second contender or another option for your man of the match?
Zinchenko.
Yeah, I think I would tend to agree. Everyone had great
Third.
games, but he's the
Go on, let's
quiet
pick five.
hero. All right, he's the quiet hero of the team, I think. After him, I think
I was joking because we'll
I
end up
know,
doing
no.
11. But
Yeah, after him, I think it's tough, but I think that midfield dominance, all of them did well. So I think, yeah,
yeah,
like we were saying, like the 3v2 that became a 4v2 with Zinchenko, that
I feel like we
midfield,
didn't
we won the
actually
battle there.
touch on Odegaard that much. Like, obviously, he
Yeah,
scored. Like, we mentioned his goal briefly, but his IQ as well, and his technical security, and the way he just toys with people and knows when to slow down a game, knows when to up it, his positioning when we're in certain zones, and he keeps himself in that little space. He keeps the passing lane to him open. His intelligence is so good, and he is a joy to watch, man. Like, best player in the league right now, I think. And
yeah, I
I
think
don't
so.
think
I
it's
think
yeah.
Rio Ferdinand said similar. He said that as it stands, he thinks that Odegaard's the best player in the league, and like obviously what Haaland's done is amazing. But he said that if Arsenal go on to win the league, like he can't see any other candidate for Player of the Year.
Yeah, yeah, I think maybe when we
When
get to the
opposition
Q,
fans are saying that, right? Like it's what
yeah,
you said about when Spurs fans are saying good things. Like you know
exactly.
that you're onto the right winning track.
I do think it would be good to, like, in the Q&A bit, have a wider talk about the title challenge and where we both think we are. Like, some of the
Hmm.
listeners give their opinion, because like this is real, right? I know some Arsenal fans have been trying to hold back. Like, you heard me, I put myself out there saying, like, we're there on merit and I think we have a chance. Like, it's not saying we have a divine right or we're guaranteed to win it, but if you're assessing what you're seeing in front of you, you can't disregard us. And I think it would be good to have a bit of a chat on that at the end, personally.
Yeah,
But
let's definitely do that. Yeah, I've got some thoughts on that for sure. But we'll wrap up Spurs here quickly and go to the United preview because
oh, do we
I think
have
we've covered the Spurs game
to?
quite a lot. But
It's not enough. I could go for another 12 hours.
it was honestly such a satisfying end to the weekend that for me. It was just
I
so
think
rewarding.
the biggest thing, right? People love these BS narratives. Saturday, 12:30 was the Manchester derby, and we saw Man United take points off Man City to, obviously, that BS offside, but much to my delight. People love spinning a narrative. How will Arsenal cope with the pressure? They now got to go to Spurs. They know a win. This, that. Was there any doubt? Like, that performance was like watching City of the last 2, 3 years. Like, they just completely sucked the life out of the crowd, controlled the game. We were taking the piss. I know I'm quite a eccentric character sometimes, but like, this was genuinely taking the absolute biscuit out of
On
them.
the
And
TV, all I could hear was Arsenal chants, and they had 60,000 home fans in the stadium. I could hear
Amazing.
Ale, Ale, Ale. I could hear the Super Mick Arteta. Like, I couldn't hear Spurs fans.
Antonio, are you listening?
Oh man, they're probably going to do some Conte out kind of riot at some point, and Levy out and Enik out, and they want to get rid of everyone, right? I think what's really hilarious is I found the article that was posted on a. You would think it was a fanzine, but it was
Right.
apparently a British newspaper, and this article came out on October 16th. As Tottenham enjoy their best start to a season since 1963, God help their rivals if they hit top gear. This was after a 2-0 win against Everton at home.
Trust
I
me.
rest my case.
It's almost like that start was unsustainable and built on sand, like everyone that knows their football was saying. Like, yeah, less of
It's
them,
just so
more of
nice
us.
to see. Yeah, it's just so. I think one thing that's interesting here is I think in the first half where we dominated and were creating and we played like a prime Man City, as you say, in terms of just killing off even the crowd and just making the game horrendous for them. I think the second half we showed a lot of spirit to not concede and to keep that clean sheet. Because when you look at the actual raw numbers side of things, so there's obviously from the Marcar stat spot on Twitter,
Yeah.
the visual models, you can see, as we're saying, in the first half, it was pretty much all Arsenal. There was 2 huge chances for Spurs, didn't quite work out for them. In the second half, it was much more defending on our side, I think. They weren't making huge chances, but they were consistently racking up more XG. And by the end of the game, the cumulative XG for them was actually 1.63 to 1.43 for us. And the expected threat was 1.35 for them to 1.5 for us. Possession was even. It was 51% for them, 49% for us. Field tilt was a lot lower than we're used to, 44% of them in our final third, 55% of us in their final third. Our defensive line height was still pretty high at 55 to their 35. But overall, like, it's one of those games where I think if you didn't watch it and you just looked at the stats, you would think it was a much closer game than it
Took
was.
the words out of my mouth. I was just going to say the
Yeah, like it
exact
looks
same
so
thing.
close, right? Like XG similar, possession similar, field tilt similar, but that's not telling the whole story. And I think that first half, once you do what we did, you're not as desperate for the third goal. I would have liked it before halftime to fully kill them off, and there was chances, like the Eddie chances, the 2 of them. But in reality, in the second half, it was a different game. We know we call Spurs a second half team, right? So
Yeah.
we knew they would be a bit more up for it in the second half as well. And I think credit to the lads for keeping that clean sheet, despite the maybe the kind of the jitters they may have had in that situation.
Yeah, you've nailed it. Like, this for me is the case study on why context and qualitative information in addition to data is so important. Like you say, if anyone looks at the stats, they'll think that's an even game, but game state affects, game state is a thing, right? We had the game won at half time. We didn't need to go and continue. Like, we could have. I've got no doubt we could have gone and made that 3-4-5, but it's just being smart about things. And I think coming out in the second half, of course, their XG in the end totaled out to being more than us because we didn't go to try. Like, we had the game sorted. Like, we had one chance where Xhaka played in Nketiah, a great pass, and I think he should have scored that. But we didn't need to go and try do anything silly, right? Because then suddenly, if 2-0, I think is one of the most dangerous scorelines in football. Because if you're going for broke to get the third, and you get hit on the counter 2-1, you're shaky, right?
And that stadium would erupt. Suddenly, that
Exactly.
quiet fan
The
base, there'd be
momentum,
60,000 behind them.
exactly. The momentum changes massively. So for me, the game was won at halftime. We did what we needed to do to see out the game. Was I comfortable the whole time? No, of course not. But it's risk reward, isn't it? And we know how good this team is in like an attacking sense and defensively. Like, we are hard to break down. We're very hard to break down. And if you just look at the threat, like, okay, the threat looks even, but overall we had them. We had them where we wanted them to be. Not like this illusion that Tottenham fans give themselves. We like to pretend you have control of the game. No, sir.
It's
We
like
had
we
control
chose
of the
to
game.
give you the control. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think this is a bit of a tangent, but this is exactly on the sort of information that I was using and why I was so confident in Arteta when people were saying Arteta out. For me, people were blindly looking at raw data and stats, this, that, and of course they were that of a mid-table team. I was seeing periods of 15, 30 minutes in a game where I was seeing structurally and tactically what he wanted to do. Not to what we're doing now, like to the level, but the framework was there for me. I could see what he was trying to do, but we didn't have the players to sustain that. And that for me is the difference in people that are able to evaluate football in like a context level and applying that to data rather than people that just are like nerds looking at a spreadsheet and that's how they base everything. Of course, like if you've got a few minutes and you need to analyze who's the best teams in the league, yeah, look at who's creating the most chances XG wise and that. But if you're looking for underlying themes and conclusions that you can draw from teams, this for me is where you watch the game and you can see the levels. Like, yeah, I think it was absolute domination. And the second half was just a result of game state. I firmly believe that if we wanted to go up the gears and get a third, we would have. Like, no doubt in my mind. So, like I said at the start, it's important to acknowledge that Spurs did have chances, but let's not kid ourselves. Like that was a schooling. That was boys v men. That was get back in your lane, you tin pot fucking football club.
And I guess after the loss yesterday, as I was saying, I feel like top four feels like a formality at this stage. It was our primary goal for the season, but we'll talk about it at the end. But like, I feel like that has to change. Where you are in our situation now, you've got to change your objective for the season. You've got to adapt. You can't just be like, let's not sign anyone because top four is our goal. Like, we have a very good opportunity here to crack on.
Yeah, exactly. And like, you know, our friend Bobby Love on Twitter, like he replied to me on Twitter. He was like, "Oh, 75 points is still the time." And I jokingly went, "Grow up!" Like, you know, like in the in betweeners. So, like, come on, man! Like we're beyond the 75 point target now. But let's save that for the end because I think there'll be a good chat on that. But the passing networks I really wanted to include because I do feel like structurally with Arsenal, you know what you're going to get. But for me, Sunday felt like the absolute clinic of Arteta's Arsenal, and especially that first half. Like, just look at that structure, hang that in the loop. Like that's art. That is art. The spacing, I think that's perfect. I think that is absolute perfection. And Jesus, yeah, some of the noises I'm making are a little bit suspect, but it's.
I think for me, it's just like we are playing in that in possession. We're kind of playing in that 2-3-5 of City, right? So it's like you've got 5 attackers.
No, City are playing in the 2-3-5 of Arsenal.
Yeah, exactly. So they've somehow switched places. And Pep's trying all these random things and benching random players and just trying to find like that missing ingredient in his like elixir of life that he doesn't know what the fuck happened and why it's just changed. But we just seem so confident. And the two is obviously Gabriel and Saliba. Like, I feel like our whole system, it comes down to them as the, I think we said it before when we used to watch Saliba, we felt that he was the kind of conductor at the base of the team, leading the team forward. But I have a lot more respect for Gabriel now because at least Saliba has Ben White to help him. When you watch Gabriel, like,
yeah,
he has no one there. Like, it's just
he's
Gabriel.
got that whole quarter of the pitch himself, right? Like, yeah,
and we've seen on the progressive passing and progressive carries, and he is up there with Zinchenko and Saka as like one of our top progressors of the ball from both passing and carries this season. So clearly he helps us get up the pitch. Here you can see that triangle, as you say, on the right, that kind of Saka, White, Odegaard triangle. It is much higher up from a passing network point of view than I think I've seen in most games we play. And Martinelli is a bit more further back. So perhaps in this situation, we've had to have Martinelli kind of protect that empty space where there is no left back a bit. I think that's partly what we're seeing here with the inverted left back.
And you know what I said? You know what I said about like how, again, I know like I come across as eccentric, but it's just passion, like in terms of how proud I am in what I'm seeing. And when I say about how perfect structurally Sunday was, just look at the spacing there. Like for people on the audio, I'd highly recommend tuning into whatever minute we're on now, like 54 minutes on YouTube, because the spacing and positioning there, that is, I can't explain to you how hard that is to achieve. And we're doing this on a consistent basis now. Like, it is absolutely ridiculous levels of coaching for me. And people talk about who like the key players are in this team. nothing is possible without this manager, I tell you. Like, the football he has got us playing, there's not many managers in the world that can do this, I promise you. Like, Pep's obviously one, but you know how I always say they struggle to proactively see what they're seeing, right? They use such historical evidence to base their opinions. Just seeing it on how we're treated as title challengers. People are judging us on what we used to be rather than what we are now. Say, like Fredo on FPL Twitter described it perfectly this morning, exactly that. And Arteta as a manager, he is one of the best in the world. But people can't see that because they have to see like tangible evidence that he's like, why can't you just see what he's done with the youngest team in the league, with one of the biggest rebuild jobs in world football that I've ever fucking seen?
Do you remember his defense? His defense he inherited was Mustafi, Kolasinac, David Luiz, fucking
Bellerin for a bit.
Yeah, there was some other trash in there too, I'm sure. Socrates, that's it, Socrates as well.
I liked Socrates. He wasn't good enough, but I really liked him. I don't know why.
I guess it's just like the reason I bring this up is there was a lot of United fans talking about United title challenge and talking about how what Ten Hag's done in 6 months it took Arteta 3 years to do. And I'm like, guys, like you spent 200 mil in the summer, you backed him heavily, and your squad was already a 500 million pound squad. Like you say, you've got the best left back, best centre back, best centre mid, best striker, best winger in the league. So what the fuck are you doing? Yeah. Like honestly, that is the shortest title challenge I've seen. It lasted 2 fucking days. And
people are idiots.
And now the narrative's changed from Arsenal haven't played so and so to instead the narrative is they've been so lucky, every coin flip goes their way. I can't believe how lucky. I've seen new people every week, someone's tweeting, this is the worst standard the league has ever been. The league is shit. Arsenal are the only good team.
We've had the best shit. 8th best start ever to a Premier League campaign. Is that the standard of the league, or is that just more like wake up, people? Like I
just think it's crazy to dismiss other clubs like as if only the big six exist. Like I'm sorry, like if you ask Fulham fans and Brentford fans and Brighton fans, like is this a good season? There's a reason the other big six have dropped points. It's because there are more quality teams. There's more scouting and more investment in the Prem as a whole. Clubs that we thought of as teams that like Newcastle, who maybe wouldn't traditionally have challenged for top 4. They're there. They're here now. People are clever. They spend and get the right assets for their squads. Like football's moved on a long way. It's no longer like a 2 or 3 team thing. So we're going to get to a scenario, I think, in the coming years where there isn't just 6 teams, the big 6 competing for top 6. Like there could be up to 9, 10 teams who are good enough to compete for those 6 positions. So I just think it's wild to be throwing accusations that this is the worst standard the league has ever been in. It obviously suits them because, you know, they're convinced. Like I think the words I remember reading were, if Arsenal lose to Spurs and then we beat them as well, and we beat Palace too, then we'll be level on points and we're going to win the title. It's like, grow the fuck up, man. Like, I have lots of friends who are United fans. You guys dominated for so long, and now you're coming out talking about ref decisions. Really? Like really? No one cared when Howard Webb was in Fergie's pocket, but now they care about ref decisions. I just find it crazy. But that's the rant over. Let's go to the predicted lineup and talk about United now that we're actually sending shots at them as we're here. So for the guys in the channel as well, thank you, Delia. Yep, we do love a Nima rant, as you say. I've got what else do we have here? We've got Mike Halpin. I've had longer hospital appointments than United title challenge. I hope all this trash talk we're sending for them is not going to come back to bite us in 3 days or 2 days time after that United game. I will continue going through the predicted lineups while we wait for Clayton. He's having some technical issues to get back in. I'm just going to reply to him. So I'll just say, yup, you've dropped out. Yeah, so for the podcast listeners, this is the predicted lineup. It's exactly what we've had for the last 2 games. So it's Ramsdale in goal, White, Saliba, Gabriel, Zinchenko, Odegaard, Partey, Xhaka in the midfield with Saka and Nketiah Martinelli up top. And hopefully if Trossard got registered by midday today, we can see him and Smith Rowe as options off the bench, which we really need because in that Newcastle game, we had no one to come on to change it. We obviously subbed on Tomiyasu and that was it. So from an attacking point of view, we really need this. With Nelson injured, with Jesus injured, with Smith Rowe barely coming back yet. it's good to get that signing over the line and get him bedded into the squad. And then just going to United's team as well. So this was their lineup against Crystal Palace. Martial seems to have picked up an injury, so he wasn't there. They had De Gea in goal, Wan-Bissaka, who's been playing while Dallow's been injured, and he's actually been looking quite good, to be fair to him. Varane, Martinez, and Shaw. And then we have Casemiro, Eriksen. Up top was Anthony Fernandez, Rashford, and Weghorst, their new signing, who's come in on loan from Burnley after terminating his contract with the Besiktas. And I guess the main...
I'm back. Can you hear me?
Clayton's back, yeah, so he's back now.
Sorry about it.
No worries. We were just talking about the predicted lineup for us, and then like the depth off the bench in Trossard and Smith Rowe, hopefully, compared to the Newcastle game where we didn't really have many attacking options. And for United, we're just saying Wan-Bissaka's been filling in for Dalot while he's been injured a bit, and Weghorst has filled in obviously for Martial, who seems to be a little bit injury prone himself. Now the Casemiro yellow card, I think this will be interesting because we could be going into this match with them playing a double pivot of McFred again. So it could be McTominay and Fred. The last time McTominay played the pivot for United this season, they lost 6-1 to City.
Yeah, so I think that...
have high hopes.
Yeah, like no insight here, nothing that people don't already know, but that Casemiro suspension is massive. Like, so why I didn't want to talk too much about it earlier in the episode was my feeling throughout this week was I thought this weekend would be a draw, personally.
Mm-hmm.
And the minute that, obviously we won't do score predictions just yet because that's coming up, but my feeling on this being a draw changed as soon as I saw Casemiro was suspended.
I think it makes a huge difference, right? It goes without saying how important of a signing he's been for them. I believe that they've yet to lose a game that him and Varane both started this season. So after their first two shocking results against, I think it was Brighton and Brentford, they would, in the league table, they would be second, 3 points behind Arsenal if you discounted the first two games. It's funny how when Arsenal talk about league tables based on calendar years, we get told that league tables are 38 weeks long and that they're not across the calendar year. But when United fans discount 2 games in a season and say they would be second, no one bats an eyelid. Which goes on to Delia's point, which is the shit we've just given to these United players in the rant I had is nothing compared to when United people rant about us. So I think honestly, I don't feel so guilty.
No, not me. But
is there anyone else in here? So I think just one thing to add is Sancho's back in training for the first time in a long time. I would not be surprised to see him come off the bench potentially. So hopefully we can keep him quiet as well if he is there. In terms of how I think they'll line up, it's a tough one, right? There were some talks of maybe Lisandro Martinez playing as the pivot. That could be an option with Shaw back in at centre-back.
Okay. And then Malacia.
Yeah, exactly. So that's one option. There could be the McTominay Fred option we discussed, or it could just be like Fred and Eriksen as the pivot. Now, if it's Fred and Eriksen as the pivot against that midfield three that we discussed of Odegaard, Xhaka, Partey with Zinchenko coming into overload, I have a feeling we're going to see something similar to what happened against Spurs and start strong, especially at home. With Casemiro out, I'm much more confident of a win. I really want to beat these guys. Like I just feel like the momentum's with us. The best part about the narrative yesterday was all the headlines were, "Oh my god, this is a huge hit on Arsenal's title challenge." That Spurs, and I was like, we thought they would win. Like nothing has changed.
As you expect. Yeah,
yeah, nothing has changed. Like we knew going into Sunday that they're probably going to beat Spurs, and well, they've played an extra game, so no shit. Like the gap is smaller.
Yeah, this is why it's so important to just kind of tune out noise and just focus on your own club and what, like, it's in our hands, right? Just focus on churning out the wins ourselves, and the rest will take care of itself. Just on United, like, just for balance, for what it's worth, I actually think they've done better and been more consistent than I thought they would be this season. Like, I didn't doubt Ten Hag as a manager. I think we touched on him, and I said, like, his positional play principles are very good, and United had a better starting point squad ability-wise than people kind of liked to give them credit for. So they did have a head start in that sense.
And it was a title challenging team, right? Like, before they signed Ronaldo, they were meant to go from second to first.
Exactly, yeah. So I do think they've done well, but the Casemiro suspension for me changes the whole midfield battle, and I think that's where we will have a lot of joy. Like how he unlocks Bruno and Eriksen in those 8 roles, like similar to Partey and Odegaard and Xhaka, to be honest. McFred can't do that to the same level. And then how that then affects where Bruno or Eriksen operates, whoever it is out of whatever 3 they pick, I think that changes it so much more. And I think as a result, we will have, like you just said, that start like we had against Spurs. I think we'll have that element of control, which I wasn't expecting us to have before the Casemiro suspension. And then it's just a case of, do we arrive in the final third as the units like we do? Do we exploit the right areas as the decision making on point? I think for me, Sunday is about, we will have the ball, we will control the ball. Can we just do what we do like normal? And I think we might.
So let's go on to score predictions then.
Yeah, sorry. Before we do, one thing, are you worried about obviously how they scored against us? How do you feel about transitions now? So we didn't have Partey in that game, and I think that is massive. And one more point, sorry, I know I keep adding in. I hope Lisandro Martinez plays on Sunday. I think how Romero is guilty of a head loss, I think we can get in this little fucker's head, man. I really do. I think he's a good defender, but I think we can absolutely manipulate him in the head. I really do. But transitions, how are you feeling about that?
Clatters into him like he did to Sessegnon.
Yeah.
But so I do think like the goals they scored against us, the 2 goals in quick succession that kind of took them to the win, it was very frustrating. There was sublime balls from Eriksen and Fernandez. They just cut through our whole team with like a single pass. And I think what we need to be careful of is that kind of ghost offside. If you look back, they do it in quite a lot of games, and they will do it again against us. So we need to just be careful not to kind of fall into that trap, I think. Like what happened with Rashford, lots of teams have done it. I've seen it on our side against Wolves. I've seen City do it against other teams. I don't agree with it. I think they're interfering with play, but by the laws of the rule book, it kind of apparently is okay. So my issue with it is that I think the rules need to be updated. Based on the current rules, they can do that kind of stuff. So I do think they will do that to us again with players offside, manipulating our defensive line and making us defend in a manic way that causes potential big chances to be conceded. So that does worry me. And they are a very quick team, very good on the counter. It gives me a lot of hope that Casemiro is not there, because I feel like Casemiro, like he is the guy who gets the ball up the pitch for them. So without him, I think we can dominate the midfield. The players that kind of I think are going to be key is Fernandez and Rashford. If they're in like their best form and their confidence is up there, I think those are the 2 biggest dangers against us, especially the way Rashford's been playing of late. Yeah. There is a bit of issues in the squad, I think. I think after that game when the draw happened against Palace, there were some clips doing the rounds of Anthony and Bruno mouthing off at each other.
That made me laugh. Didn't he
so
go,
that was good puta? To see. Yeah, exactly. I think he called him puta. So, that's always good to see them, title challenging team with infighting when Bruno's wearing the armband. So
title challenge nonsense, man. Like I know you touched on it earlier, but I couldn't believe that. Yeah, less said the better. Let's get through Sunday first. But yeah, should we go through to score predictions?
Yeah, let's wrap this up with the score predictions. So still the same, still correct outcome, 83% for both of us. You've actually predicted 41 goals for us and we've scored 42. You've also predicted we'll concede 12 and we've conceded 14. So you're doing pretty well on those fronts. Yeah, you're very close. You're just 1 or 2 off on each. We've predicted 16 wins and 1 draw, and
that's mental, isn't it? Not predicting like a loss
0
yet,
losses.
We've only got 1 wrong.
Exactly, 1 loss, 2 draws, 50 wins. So the outcomes are there. As you say, I would have probably considered a draw possible here before with the Casemiro playing, but with him out, I'm going to go for like a bold 2-0.
2-0.
I'm backing another clean sheet at home. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. I think they'll get 1, but I think we'll get 3. So I'm going 3-1.
So you're kind of we're basically like both halves of Mike Halpin's 3-0 prediction in the live chat.
Yeah, I've had to turn off my other laptop for the live chat because of the Wi-Fi. So yeah, Let me sorry, let me know what the others are saying. But 3-0,
Yeah,
I would
let us know your predictions in the chat, guys.
3-0 would be great. But yeah, I think 3-1. I think how I see the game go, I think we'll start frighteningly quick. I think we'll get an early goal. I think it'll be very similar to the Spurs game, but United will take one of the chances they get, unfortunately. I feel the question I asked you about transitions, I feel worried about them, but I feel in a weird way more confident in our ability to deal with them now. I feel like we're a more mature team than we were back in whenever the game was, September or
I
October, and
think we were too
Party being
cocky in
there as
that
well.
game. I think we were complacent. We were so confident we would win because of how strong we started. I think we let that, like, we lost our heads. I honestly
So
think we lost our heads a bit that day.
I can see your point there. I wouldn't say, I personally don't think it was cockiness. I think that they just got a little bit overwhelmed in like a 5-10 minute spell,
Maybe not
personally. And
cockiness, but I think there
I
was
know
definitely
exactly
an
what you mean.
element of like, it was almost just like we were too comfortable. Like we just assumed that like the game would carry on like that, and then suddenly it didn't for 5-10 minutes, as you say.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I am confident that we will attack how we attack, create enough chances to score 2 or 3. And yeah, unfortunately, I think they will get a chance, a good quality chance against us, and they'll put it away. So I'm going 3-1. 3-1 to the Arsenal.
So just the other predictions we have. So Delia's gone for 2-1 for us. Christopher
I
Tellez has
like it.
gone for 2-0 to us.
Okay, same as
So
you.
no one's predicting a draw or a loss. Hopefully it is a win. I bloody hope so. Like I have my fingers and toes crossed for that game. But all right, let's get us out of here. We're 1 hour 11 in. Obviously, we combined the preview and review, so it's a bit longer than usual. I think we'll try to take Q&A on the next one when we review
Yeah.
this Manchester game next week. We can take Mike's question as a quick question in this thank you and get out, because it's actually just a very quick question. It's most people currently have 3 Arsenal, 2 United, and would you be benching, Ben White or Luke Shaw if you had to bench one of the two right now?
I'd bench Shaw personally, and like not really a question in my mind. I think although I didn't predict a clean sheet, I'd say the probability of an Arsenal clean sheet is much higher than Man United, personally.
Yeah. So I think for me, I generally, when I've got a benching headache for like a defender, a third defender, I'll look at home and away. I'll look at maybe clean sheet percentage odds. So keep a lookout to see if FPL Salah releases those. I'm playing both because that's just how mad my team is. I have like Bueno away at City on my bench for Wolves, and I don't know who my other defender is, but it can't be good because like I don't remember. Oh, it's Reece James who's been injured for like 2 months. So yeah, I don't even have other players to play. So for me, it's not a headache. What I would say is I do think that Luke Shaw has a higher ceiling when he plays fullback, in the sense that he can get like,
Yeah.
he's more likely to get an attacking return. But because I've said 2-0, but I don't see either team really keeping a clean sheet. 2-0 is like more what I want to happen. I could see both teams conceding. So if you think both teams are going to concede, then I think Luke Shaw has a higher upside. But I just think that like we are going to be good defensively. We're home. They're losing Casemiro. And for that, Ben White just sneaks ahead. But I think it's a proper 50-50 call. Like you got to just flip a coin. Sometimes I do it based on like as a fan. So I say to myself, like, well, if we lose 1-0 and I bench Luke Shaw, I'll be even more pissed for both FPL and Arsenal. If we win and I bench Ben White's points, I'll just be happy because of Arsenal. So fuck FPL, basically.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I make some of these decisions that are very close. So I don't know. Maybe that helps you think, Mike. What will piss you off more, and what will put you in a happier mood? So maybe decide based on your headspace.
Yeah, no, just to kind of wrap up, like Sunday, like any other game, but absolutely must win. And this is another one, like feels like this kind of elite old school footballing rivalry is kind of waking up again. And this is huge. Like if we win this, obviously just keep, the longer the season goes and the less games there are left, just keep that buffer, because then there's less time for City to catch up on it, right? And I think Sunday is the last tough, like in speech marks, brackets, whatever, game we've got for a while. And then we've got
Yeah,
City
there's like Man
in a
City in the
month.
middle, but like in reality, there's a very good stretch after
We
that
have got
before we get to April.
a huge opportunity to put some points on the board. And make City chase us, because I don't doubt City will continue to drop points for me personally. People talk about them going on these 10, 14
15
game
game
winning runs. I don't see that in this City team, and that might come back to bite me, but I think we've got the ability to do that. So let's carry on doing this, beat those wankers on Sunday, keep putting these points on the board, increase that gap, and hope City continue to slip up.
I hope so. I don't want to leave the pod with a negative thought, but I just thought I'd put this there for some balance.
No.
At kickoff
Okay.
on Sunday, we may be in a scenario where City have played 2 extra games than us, and there is only a 2-point lead. So let's see what the boys can do. Let's see what the boys do, because that's going to be like, the narrative's already going to be there. Like between the 2 o'clock and the 4:30 kickoff, if City win that game against Wolves, there is going to be like everything everywhere going on about, it's a 2-point lead. Arsenal are going to lose this game. They don't have the spirit. So I really hope we shut everyone up this weekend.
Yeah, I hope so. But I also think we don't need to prove anything. We've shut down these narratives all season. So like I said, tune out the noise. Just focus on
us, on our game.
Believe in our own team. That's it. Yeah.
And that's what the players say.
Up the Arsenal.
They all say, up the Arsenal, guys. Good luck this weekend, and we'll see you guys for the review.
Yeah, cheers everyone.
Cheerio.
Up the Arsenal. Come on.